Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we could not be sharing these stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Kim Brown with Core Insights 360 PR. Welcome, Kim.
Hey, Lee and audience. I'm very excited to be joining you guys today to talk about this very important topic called PR and kind of demystifying it a little bit for your audience.
Well, I appreciate that. Before we get too far into things, PR or public relations, there used to be PR on one side and then advertising and marketing all kind of separate. But I think in today's world, there's a blurring of the lines about each one. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what lane each of those are in?
Oh, great question. So first of all, I mean, you're right in the ballpark. When they say PR, what they are really looking for is just a sales rep. Other people, when they say they want PR, they're looking for advertising or marketing. And then some people even think PR is social media, and really PR is none of that. Really, PR at its core is really just the practice of deliberately sharing information about your company in a way that cultivates a positive response from the public through both paid and earned media placements on news outlets like TVs, magazine, online radio. But here's the catcher. All without directly promoting your products or services. If you are directly promoting your products or services, then you are dealing in the lane of advertising and marketing, not PR.
And that gets a little kind of a gray area in today's world where it's hard for a lay person to sometimes discern what is paid, what is earned, and where the line is actually drawn.
Yeah, and it started to blur a little bit more because even in the PR side of the wheelhouse, years ago, and I won't date myself too much, years ago, you could never do a paid placement through PR. But believe it or not, some PR and some media and some news, it is a paid opportunity. Okay. But at its core, public relations is really just about packaging your story in a way that allows you to share thought leadership information, data, trends, insights about things that are connected to your sector, your industry, or even connected to your product and service without directly selling that item. Because if you directly sell it, reporters won't see that as a news story. They'll see that as an advertising play. And let me give you a quick example, and this will make it really plain and clear. I brought on a client some years ago and they were selling mattresses. You know, the mattresses are a big thing now, Tempur-Pedic mattresses, Sleep Number mattresses, they were selling mattresses. I could not pick up the phone with reporters at the New York Times, USA Today, or Fast Company and say, hey, will you cover my client's new bedding product that's on sale for $5.99? No, that's advertising, right? But I could pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, did you know that 30% of married couples don't sleep together and they say it's because of their bed? Now I have a story to sell and not just a product. But the tricky thing is, in that story, the client is also able to include a backlink to their products and services so they get the free coverage, but also get a backlink to their website, but do it in a way that tells a story.
And that's something that I'm sure with your clients, you have to spend a lot of time managing their expectations, that it's not something that the work that you're doing is not something that if you do 100 pitches, you'll get 100 stories. And you kind of need the media property or the platform to kind of go along. And that's a negotiation, and it has to fit into the kind of the editorial calendar of those platforms, right? It's not, if you buy an ad, if you give them money, they'll run your ad 100% of the time, pretty much. But in PR, it's not like that.
No, you're absolutely right. In PR, what you always want to keep in mind is we're here to entice reporters with great stories. If we just try to sell a product or service, they will literally kind of shuffle you over to their ad department, which your ad with their publication could cost $3K to $5K. That's a lot of money. A good PR representative knows how to take your product and service, do good research on marketplace trends, data, insight, and develop a strategy. Never start work with a PR agency or a consultant without strategy. Develop a good strategy that will give you powerful story angles and opportunities that package stories that will give you the free publicity, quote unquote, that you're looking for in a news story.
Right. So what they're buying from you is kind of that strategic insight on how to create a story and maybe execute a story that can be published in these variety of places rather than an ad and then you have to pay for the ad. So they're paying you for the expertise and the knowledge and the consulting and in maybe even sometimes the press release and the packaging around it, but you're not paying for the placement.
That is correct. Now, I will say this, a good PR rep, it should absolutely line up with what you just said. So you're absolutely right. Once you hire a good quality consultant or agency, they should have the contacts, they should have the strategy, they should have the ability to package strategy and creative story angles and thought leadership opportunities around your products and services that will get you in your verticals, that will get you in Fast Company, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, that sort of thing, without you having to pay an extra fee.
Right. And that's, so you must spend a lot of time educating folks because it's probably not obvious to them about how that side of the business works.
You're right. PR is kind of a mystery. People, like I said, some of them say they want PR, but they're really looking for just advertising. Other people say they really do want PR. I want to be on the front page of the New York Times, or they understand that they want to be on ABC News and that sort of thing, but they don't have the right strategy to get there. And so you have to have someone who knows the right things to say, the right ways to package you so that you can get those interviews, podcasts, TV, radio opportunities that you come across as a thought leader and not too salesy. That's one of the biggest no-nos with any PR strategy. You cannot be overly salesy. You have to come across as informational. You have to come across as a thought leader. You can even share tips and insights, and it can even give you a backlink back to your product. But at the end of the day, what did you share that helped improve someone's situation, their life, or their business circumstances?
Now, is this something you find that businesses can do this on their own, or does it require an expert?
That's a great question. So I'm on the receiving end of those emergency phone calls from clients saying, hey, we tried to do this in-house and it didn't work out so well. Or, hey, we hired this big agency and paid them a truckload of money and they got us nothing, right? Those are the, not so fun times in any business. I recommend that if an organization wants to do PR in-house, that's fine. Make sure you hire qualified public relations talent that can do it in-house. Don't just say, oh, I get it, I can just put out a press release. A press release, by the way, on its own never works. There's a certain strategy for press releases, but it's not going to get you interviews and placement opportunities in key publications, especially with top tiers. So you definitely have to make sure you're partnering with the right person that's going to give you great consultation, but also open some doors for you the right way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that part of the plan, correct me if I'm wrong, is you better know who are the people that write the stories. Like you have to have relationships with a bunch of writers in these publications or the news people or whoever is deciding what goes on the air, whether it's in print or on the air. And that's where this all happens, right? It isn't, you can't not have that. Sending blind press releases out, then that's like a lottery ticket.
So you're bringing up a great point, Lee. So yes, absolutely. Most really good PR consultants and firms have relationships with reporters. I've been in the game for over 10 years now. So obviously I know who to go to, those relationships, and how to use them the right way. Okay, that's key because you can't overuse them. They're relationships that have to be cared for and stewarded the right way. And at the end of the day, they're looking for good story angles too. So we can't just bring them junk just because we're good friends, right? But one of the biggest things I want to share with your audience is what is better than having relationships with reporters, believe it or not, is having good strategy. Good strategy will take you where relationships may not. And I will give you a good example. There was a client I took on board last year. I had never worked in this sector, in their segment of the industry before. So I did not have relationships in that industry, but they were impressed with my strategy, my skill set, and they wanted to, give my services a try. With good strategy and the planning time that I spent with them and the articles and article options and creative story angles I was able to propose to them, within 2 weeks, we had a media briefing with 60 minutes for this client. They were not a big brand. They were new to the marketplace. But what gets us in the door with 60 Minutes, what gets us in the door with ABC News, what gets us in the door with the Wall Street Journal over and over and over again is good strategy and good story angles. We build new reporter relationships all day, every day, when they love what you're doing, they know what you're talking about, and they see that you have powerful insights and information to share with their audience that is not overly salesy. Strategy will take you where contacts may or may not.
So now, how does it work when you have a new client? They find you, probably, I would imagine, a lot of referrals. You probably have a lot of happy clients that say you should contact Kim. And what's it look like, that first meeting? Like, what do you need from them in order to help them?
Okay, so great question. So first of all, people can easily reach me at 678-829-9070. Again, 678-829-9075. I'm sorry about that. 678-829-9075. I want to make sure that I get that out there for you. But within the first few weeks of engagement, this is what we do. We spend time preparing for strategy. Obviously, you understand, never work with PR agencies that won't give you a strategy. So we do a kickoff call. We talk to key stakeholders. We do a little bit of a communications audit to see what they've been doing on the marketing side of the house. What are their competitors doing? Where have their competitors been placed in news articles? We need to factor that and bake that into strategy as well. What's trending in the marketplace? What are those type of conversations that we absolutely need to make sure that they are a part of? So we package all those learnings into like core findings, strategy. Here's what we're going to do for the first 3 months of our engagement. So they see clear story angles, the type of reporters and publications that we're going to go after. And it's a real accountability tool, but it also gives the client a clear picture of where their process is going to go. Once they approve that strategy document, the green light turns on. We are developing pitches for them. We are reaching out to reporters on their behalf. We are setting up and facilitating interviews. We're also facilitating article opportunities for them as well. And then we continue that relationship by having weekly status reports, as well as ongoing check-in meetings or status meetings to ensure that they're happy with results and that things are going effectively. So again, good PR is going to have accountability, a clear roadmap, very transparent as to how we're going to get you from point A to point Z.
And then what is kind of a reasonable amount of time? Like how long does strategy typically take? And then how long until you start implementing things? And then how long until they start seeing some measurable result?
You know what? I'm so glad you asked that question, because I cannot tell you how many clients I have brought on board that say they brought on a consultant or an agency and they did not even start to see results for 2 to 3 months. That is not normal, guys. So with my process, when I onboard a client, we spend the first 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks max, hammering down strategy. Strategy should be nailed within 2 to 2.5 weeks. Once strategy is nailed down, literally the green light should come on at about the 3rd week of engaging with a good firm or a good consultant. And because you have strategy, you should start to see results probably within a week or 2 after strategy launches. And I'm talking about anywhere, depending on the scope of work, you should see anywhere between 5 to 8 really solid media results per month is what's reasonable.
And then how do you measure, okay, I was mentioned and I was quoted and my brilliance was shared, into I would like at some point somebody's got to buy something from me. Like it's great that I had my picture in the newspaper, but if at some point it isn't translating into revenue, then is that really what I'm trying to do?
So great question, because it does have to be measurable. Years ago, when I first started in PR, it was more difficult to measure results. In today's digital world, it's a lot easier. So this is where you bring on a digital marketer who is able to create unique URLs and tracking links and embed them in those articles. We can share those links with reporters as they're preparing their stories. Hey, as you're going to do a backlink back to our client site, please use this trackable link, this trackable URL. And with that, they're able to see from this specific article or this particular placement, it drove this many engagements back to my site, or this many people clicked on my buy now button, that sort of thing. So there are ways to track lead generation with PR now because of some of the digital tools that we have in place. Some clients also track SEO value. I have clients in that space too, where they're like, hey, since we brought you on board, our SEO value has increased tremendously because of all of the article activity that you've been able to get for us. So some are using PR for SEO value. And then to your point, some are using it for sales leads and results in that area.
So now, are you seeing anything different because of the pandemic and COVID in your job, or is your job mostly kind of remote work anyway?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Most of my team has been virtual now, probably for the past 5 to 7 years. So we've been in this virtual sandbox for a little while. I would say the only thing that has changed for me on my side of the account is we're probably doing more Zoom calls, whereas regular conference calls were a little bit more normal with those of us who were kind of used to working from home or working virtually and remotely. So we're doing more Zooms now than ever before because people are looking for some kind of human factor or touch point, even in the midst of this whole space that we're in. From a client perspective, obviously, we've continued to stay a little busy, by the grace of God. We have, there are all sorts of innovations that are coming around during this time to really help small businesses and startups. Believe it or not, capital raising is still very much going on in the private equity sector for small businesses who are doing crowdfunding campaigns and that sort of thing. And so we've stayed busy with helping those innovations that are right on the cusp because of some things that have taken place here recently in the marketplace to really support those new innovations and those startups as well. So we've been pretty busy.
Now, do you specialize in a certain niche, or are you kind of industry agnostic? What's an ideal client for you and your team?
Yeah, so we're a little bit industry agnostic. I literally tell people I have promoted everything from Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches all the way to technology gadgets and gizmos to green energy solutions. We're a little bit all over the place. We've done telecom industry. We've even done some entertainment PR, did some Shark Tank work, believe it or not, some years ago, and facilitated a slate of interviews for folks like Mark Cuban and the whole folks that were down in DC with me some years ago for a big event. So when you have good strategy, and you're able to literally put strategy and fit it into any industry or sector, it works. And we are known most for our success results. We get tons of referrals because people come to us or they refer people to us because they had such a great experience with our firm. They got really amazing results, which, by the way, before you ever bring on a consultant or an agency, always ask to see results. That's a big misstep, believe it or not, that clients make. Ask to see status reports, ask to see results from previous work, ask to see writing samples. Just don't hire someone, for their good looks.
And then is this something that this is only for businesses that are multi-million-dollar firms, or is this affordable for the small business person?
It absolutely is affordable for the small business person. So one of the great things about my firm, which is a boutique agency, we have the flexibility to be able to scale up for some of our bigger clients, but we also have the ability to kind of scale down and do packages for startups and small businesses. So we do have a small business offering and a startup package that is very friendly and price sensitive for startups, because we understand probably now more than ever, small businesses need services like ours. They're pivoting like never before. They're having to come up with new ways to talk about their brands, their products, and their services. And so we've always had a heart for startups and small businesses, even before all of this stuff hit the marketplace. So we have literally a package for our bigger brand clients, and we also have packages for startups. But believe it or not, here's the catcher. Whether we're working with a big brand or a startup, we're still able to get amazing results like your Fast Companies and your Inc. magazines. And why? Again, I know I've said it 20 times, but it's because of good strategy. We know the secret sauce for solid strategy that can get you through the door with some of those key publications.
Well, if there's a company out there that wants to kind of get their PR strategy together, what is the best way to get a hold of you? What's the website?
Yeah, the website, little long, so you guys pay attention. It's Core Insights with an S, 360.com, Core Insights, the number 360.com, or you can call me at 678-829-9075. Again, that's 678-829-9075. 9075. And I would love to set up a free consultation session with you and see what we can do to help your business or startup grow to the next level.
Well, Kim, thank you so much for sharing your story. You're doing important work and we appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, Lee. You and your family have a great rest of the afternoon, and let's stay on the front line helping these small businesses.
Absolutely. All right. This is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio. And remember, this work would not be possible without the support of our sponsor, OnPay. Please support them so that we can continue to share these important stories.
Today's episode of Atlanta Business Radio is brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com.